Cool. Listen, I got to start this morning and this whole sermon series. I got to start with a commercial, and I need you guys to know I have not been paid for this commercial. I'm not against being paid, so if y'all want to pay me to do a commercial, I'll do it. But I'm not paid. But I do think it's important that I share with you that the Ashland Domino's is amazing. It's incredible. And look, I am surprised. I'm as surprised as anybody that I feel this way. Pizza Hut that 2 years in a row was the #1 Pizza Hut in the country. And I don't know what that means, but I know they had a plaque. 2 of them side by side. So I don't know exactly what that means, but I know they did really well. And like the Pizza Hut I grew up, guys, was like they still have a lunch buffet. Still do. And if you go to that lunch buffet, they still have the stained glass chandelier above it, and you still drink your Pepsi out of one of those red cups. It's awesome. It gets so good. And so I grew up eating, my chain pizza of choice was always Pizza Hut because, of course, it was. And so, I remember when we had a Pizza Hut here in town, I was devastated when they left. Like, I don't know what I did wrong. I did a lot of introspection about myself. I took it personally. I was like, it's like getting broken up with by a girl. Like, well, what did I do here? And then eventually, like, you do what the most emotional thing is. You just blame them. Like, oh, she was just the worst. Take no responsibility for it. So, I was hurt when Pizza Hut left is my point. And I wasn't really ready to love again. But then Domino's came. And we had Domino's, and it was good. Well, I mean, it was passable. It's Domino's. But here's the important thing with Domino's. And I know, like, if you guys live in Ashland, and I'm not trying to speak ill of anybody, though I definitely am. Have you guys noticed that it's like Russian roulette, like trying to get your order right in this town? Everybody knows this. Okay, yeah. You go to a place, or you order a thing, and it's like, I don't know what I'm getting. I have no idea. Like, you order a pizza, and like they send you, like, not a pizza. It's the craziest thing. It's just so bizarre. So I wasn't expecting a lot, but Domino's, man, I've ordered it, I don't know how many times, but like it's always right. And when I say it's always right, like my pizza order is weird. I like my pizza without sauce on it. And so you type that in, it's like, hey, I don't want sauce. Like usually people are like, oh, they hit a button wrong. They must have. But Domino's, they don't care. They'll give you that pan pizza with ham and pepperoni and extra cheese and no sauce. They'll do that. And they'll get it right every single time. And not only that, but I don't know if you guys had delivery from them, but they'll deliver to you, and it's like they're defying the laws of science. Because, like, you'll get the pizza, and it's so hot you can't touch it. And it's also like you can order on your phone, and it'll be like, it'll be here in like 15 minutes. And like 7 minutes later, this very nice woman is knocking on your door with the lava of hell in a box, covered in cheese and pepperoni. Like, here you go. It's amazing. Like, I want Domino's to run everything. Like, I mean, just like taxes, like the federal government in general, like I just need them to run everything to do is efficient. And what I love about it too is if you order online, and this is where the commercial really comes in. If you order online, get 50% off. No, I'm kidding. If you order online, it tells you what they're doing. It's got a little like status bar, and it's like they put the pizza in the oven, and then like you look a minute later, and they're like, we took it out. And it's like, Hank is checking it, and Hank checked it. That's why it's right. And they're like, it's on the way. Like it's the world's most perfect system, and I love it so much. And I'm just saying, you guys should go to Domino's. Okay, so let's put a pin there. We're gonna come back to that. I promise. Of course, we're coming back to that. Let's put a pin there. But now let's have this conversation. This is not a commercial, but this is an important conversation too. I think most of us are atheists. Like I think we are. I'm including myself in this, okay? I think most of us are atheists. And here's why I say that. There's of course the group of people that we know say I don't believe in God. And I've always found those people fascinating. Because if nothing else, I get being agnostic, I don't know. But to say there's no God is as declarative of a statement as saying there is one. It's like people who are atheists that say there's no God, they have as much faith as we do. They just, are putting their faith in like there isn't a God where we put faith that there is. And so I always found those people fascinating because they're really committed to not believing in something. And it's new. Look, I could sit and talk to them for days about that, but there's those people, and that's some segment of the population. Okay, those are not the people I'm talking about. I think the rest of us, I think I myself am an atheist a lot of the time. I think we collectively are atheists, and here's why I say that. I think most of us live our lives and God just doesn't matter. I think most of us live our lives in such a way that if God existed or God didn't exist, it doesn't matter at all. It's completely irrelevant. Here's what I mean. Let's take a normal day, okay? I don't know how you live your life, but a normal day you can imagine, okay? A normal day begins with an alarm clock. If you can get up without an alarm clock, oh my gosh, teach me your ways. But it begins with an alarm clock, right? The alarm goes off and you're like, okay, I'm going to get up. And you get up and you do your morning routine. You shower, you have coffee, I don't know what you do, read the newspaper if it's 1957, just whatever. Like you get ready and you live your life and you do your thing, and then you get dressed, hopefully, and then you decide, okay, well, I need to go to work. This is what people do, right? People work. And so you're ready, you got your coffee, you got your briefcase, you're wearing your suit, we're back to 1957, and you head out the door. And you get into your car, right? And you start your car and you drive your car. And let's be honest, you're not going to Ashland. There's nowhere in Ashland to work. So what you're doing is you're jumping on a highway and you're going to Columbia, you're going to Jeff, right? And so the good thing is that, if you want to go to Jeff, it's that way, I think. No? That way? That way? That way? And if you want to go to Columbia, you go that way, right? Make sure you go the right way. You'll go to the wrong place. That's the important thing. And so you go to your place and then you go to work. And look, I don't know what your job is. Maybe you're on the phone all day. Maybe you're dealing with customers all day. Maybe you're dealing with students all day. Maybe you're, working with spreadsheets all day and you never talk to anybody. Like I don't know what your day is, but you're going to be there for like 8 to 12 hours because you've got stuff to do. And then, at some point in the middle of the day, you'll be like, it's noon. I better eat lunch. And you'll eat lunch. And then in the afternoon, you'll be like, you'll pretend to work because nobody works at 3 o'clock. Like at 3 o'clock in the day, nobody is working. That's why those 5-hour energy commercials are always like, it's late in the afternoon. Drink this, because we all know that nobody works at 3 in the afternoon because you're tired, you just want to go home. And so then you unwind, okay? You undo the thing. The cycle goes back. So you get your coffee cup and your briefcase, and you're still wearing your suit, hopefully, and you go to your car, and whatever direction you went to on the way, you go back the opposite direction, and you get home, and now it's like you play with the kids, or you talk to the wife, or you have dinner. Theoretically, you're gonna check out whatever you're watching on Netflix, like whatever you're doing. Then maybe you check out, a baseball game or a sports game of some kind, and then you walk the dog or whatever, and then you're like, all right, I'm gonna go to bed, and you set your alarm and you go the next day. I just described a lovely life, a wonderful life, an honorable, virtuous life, and I also just described a life that in no way needs to include God in it. You don't need God to shower. You don't need God to make coffee. You don't need, or at least a belief in God. You don't need a belief in God to drive down the road. You don't need a belief in God to hold down a job. You don't need to believe in God to watch Netflix. You don't have to believe in God to set an alarm. Everything I just described can be done by somebody who believes in God or somebody who doesn't. And for most of us, then what we're doing is living our lives largely disconnected from God. Largely just thinking, not thinking about God, not trying to consider, not trying to serve, we're just living our lives, dating, and not everybody, okay? There are nuns, I get it, right? But even me, I'm a preacher. I'm basically a professional Christian. I don't know if you ever thought about that. It's a pretty sweet deal, honestly. But even for me, there's times when I it's Thursday and I'm like, when did I pray last? I probably should have before I wrote that sermon, but maybe I didn't. You know what I mean? It's very easy to just get in the routine of your life and live your life and do your thing. And we are functionally atheists. Functionally, the word atheist means without God. We functionally just live our lives as if God is real or isn't real. And so what that means then, because that's how we live our lives, what our religion is, what our faith is just a bunch of propositions we agree with. I don't think you guys ever thought about that. Like, when somebody becomes a Christian, we're simply asking them to agree with some stuff, right? And so that becomes faith. Faith becomes like, well, I agree with the supposition that God made the world. I agree with the supposition that God became a person named Jesus. I agree with the supposition that Jesus did miracles and stuff. I agree with the supposition that Jesus died on the cross and rose from the dead. I agree with the supposition that the Holy Spirit lives inside of me. I agree with the fact that I'm supposed to love people. We agree with it. I'm not saying that we don't agree. I'm just saying agreeing that something's real doesn't impact the day to day. Super simple. St. Louis Cardinals last won the World Series in 2011. I think. 11? Yeah, got somebody to nod their head. Perfect. I agree with the statement. The St. Louis Cardinals won the World Series in 2011. David Freese was there. It was the whole thing. I agree that it happened. I never think about that. And quite frankly, I don't care. I mean, it was a fun story at the time. We've had 13 more since then, or 12 more since then. This is what it is, right? I agree that the Cardinals did that. But it does not impact my Tuesday afternoon or my Thursday evening. For most of us, belief in God is like the St. Louis Cardinals winning the World Series. We agree that this is what's happening. We agree that God is God, and God is real, and God is loving, and God is all these things. But on Tuesday afternoon at work at 3 p.m, who cares? So what? Thursday evening when you're watching episode 4 of that documentary about that serial killer on Netflix, who cares? So what? And so we live our lives functionally as atheists. Here's what I want. I want to not do that. I'd like to not do that. It seems to me, right, that the last thing I want to be is an atheist, right? Because I do agree with these things and I do believe in God, right? And so what I want to do is take these things we agree with that are over here, and I want to take my everyday life. And right now, most of the time, they're sort of disconnected. They're kind of in different places. And what I want to do over the next, let's do 6 weeks. What I want to do over the next 6 weeks is make those things closer. Hopefully, I'd love to make them overlap. I would love for us, for me, for you, as we are Christians, I would love when we have a regular day for it not to just be a regular day. I would love for us to say, okay, yes, it's, Wednesday morning, but this is not just Wednesday morning because I am a Christian and I know God and I see God all over the place. And I experience God all over the place. I want that for myself. And I want that for you because I think that's way more pleasant. And I think that's way closer to what we're supposed to be than what we generally are. Christianity was not supposed to be a religion of intellect. It simply wasn't. And I can tell you how I know that. Because the people who lived this were all illiterate. The Apostle Peter can't read, guys. Not on a first grade level even. He can't do cat, C-A-T, cat, bat, B-A, Peter can't do that. Dude's a fisherman. His faith was something he lived and experienced and understood beyond just on an intellectual level. I want that. I want to live a life that's not just me agreeing with the right things. I want the things I agree with and the way that I live my life, I want them to overlap. So let's do that. And let's start at the beginning. Let's start with the ground level. Let's start with the easy one. We're going to do the easy one first, okay? We're going to warm up. That's how we should always do this. Warm up. Warm up first. So warm up with this, okay? Here's the question. So God made the heavens and the earth. So what? This is our task today. So what? Now, you might be thinking, okay, well, God as creator. That's the easy one, Drew. We all can feel God in nature. You're right. We did start with the easy one. I don't know what's wrong with you if you can be in the mountains and not feel God's presence. Or at least feel something that's not just like normal, I guess. Or like the ocean, right? Like or you know, a sunset. Right. For Stephanie, like there's a couple, like once a year, twice a year, something like that, where we'll drive by a field and it's like a purple field. Like if you guys see that, like you drive by and like Stephanie, just like she just goes nuts. She just loves it so much. Like that and fireflies, those are her things, right? She loves fireflies. Like it's so irritating. She's like, Drew, look at the fireflies. I'm like, I'm 40. I'm aware. And then, like, 10 seconds later, look at the fireflies. You're not looking. That's when you know, like, just pretend. Just pretend like you care. Because when she says you're not looking, you're one step from being in trouble. Okay? Nature's easy, right? Like, you see the beauty of creation. You see the beauty of God. You see, God's fingerprints over all sorts of things, and you see that kind of stuff. But I dare say one of the things that's hard for us, I think, is that human beings are really disconnected from nature. I don't know how many of y'all live in the woods, but it's probably few of you, right? Like, we're pretty disconnected. Like, most of us don't live in the mountains. We can't afford it. Most of us can't see an ocean. We definitely can't afford that. Like, human beings, this is a whole other conversation, but human beings took the best part of creation and were like, let's just charge, like, everything for that. And then only super elite wealthy people in their vacation homes get that. And so that's what we do. And so most of us, let's be honest, we're not getting up for a sunset. Like a sunset, like every time Stephanie and I go on vacation, she's like, I want to see a sunset this time. I want to see a sunset this time. I want to see a sunset this time. And I got to tell you, I don't do 5:15 well. I just don't. I don't care. At 5:15, I'm the world's greatest atheist. She's like, it's so beautiful. I'm like, I bet it is. I'm rolling over. Like, I just don't care. And so this is what we do, right? And so beyond just like the big obvious stuff, the question has to be asked, so what? So what if God made the world? How does that impact my every single day? To answer that, let's just read the creation story in the Bible, or at least a chunk of it. This is what we read. The very first page of the Bible. You can find this fairly easily because it's page 1. This is what we read in the book of Genesis chapter 1. It says, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was formless and empty, and darkness covered the deep waters. The Spirit of God was hovering over the surface of the waters. Then God said, let there be light, and there was light. And God saw that the light was good. Then he separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness night. And evening passed, and morning came, marking the first day. Okay. It's interesting how we interpret things sometimes. And by that I mean, it's interesting sometimes that we don't read things, we just jump to interpreting. Here's what I mean. We always talk about, as Christians, I'm using the royal we here. We always talk about as Christians that God made the world out of nothing. And to a degree, that's true. Sure, God's the first cause. We see God speaking light into existence. Okay, great. That's sort of what God does. But did you notice that, that's not at all the basis of Genesis 1, 2, and 3 there? You notice, if you read it, you wouldn't say, if I were to take, a class of 5th graders and say, describe how God made the world, and I handed them that, they would not say, well, God made the world out of nothing. And I'll tell you why. Because it says the earth was formless and empty, and darkness covered the deep waters. That doesn't sound like nothing. In fact, that sounds like something. And again, I'm not saying that God isn't the first cause of everything, of course. But the creation story doesn't just say, hey, God just talked a lot, and God waved his hands, and then God was like, all right, we're done after a week. That's not what we read. What we read is that God did some very specific work with some things that were there. And now we need to talk about what it was that was there. It was an earth that was, this says, formless and empty. Now, here's a trick about ancient Hebrew. It's really hard. Because we're not ancient Hebrews. Most of us aren't Hebrews at all. And so it's very hard for us to like exactly get things. So you'll notice if you read a bunch of different Bibles, you'll read different phrases here for formless and empty. Probably the best translation here, though, comes from actual ancient Jewish people. And when they translate this, they have translated this not as formless and empty, but as chaos and waste. Now, if you're doing your thesaurus thing in your head, it of course makes sense. Chaos and formless, yeah, great. Empty and waste, of course, yeah. The idea is sort of like this. There's something here, but it's not doing the something it could do. It's kind of like it's like you got like a lump of clay, right? It's just a lump. Like it's not doing anything. You can make all sorts of stuff out of that. You can do all sorts of stuff to it. The raw material is there, like it's there, or like a puzzle, right? Like somebody loves puzzles. She buys these puzzles and she does these puzzles. She loves puzzles. The only thing she likes more than fireflies is puzzles. And so, if you get a puzzle in a box the first time, it's just a bag of puzzle pieces. It's nothing. It's just little pieces of cardboard. But slowly but surely, if you do your thing, it turns into a picture. Or like Legos, when you're not stepping on them, you can build with them. It's entirely possible. You can build just about anything with them. But again, if you just have a block, there's something, but it's not anything. It's kind of like if you build a house. I can do this all day with these illustrations. You build a house, you see like the materials, right? There's like wood and drywall and paint and plumbing stuff and, house stuff, right? Electrical wires. Put it all together, it's a house. But before that, it's just a pile of stuff. What Genesis 1:2 tells us is that in the beginning, God made the heavens and the earth was chaos. It was stuff, but it wasn't stuff. It was something, but it was nothing. It was disorder. It was not being organized. It was just stuff. And so God gets to work. And what he does is he takes the bag of the puzzle pieces and he dumps them out and he starts arranging. He takes the Legos. He warns the angels, hey, I'm working over here. Don't step over here. And he builds the tower. He takes the clay and he builds the house. Whatever illustration you like. The story of creation, if you look at it carefully in Genesis 1, is a story where God takes chaos and makes order out of it. God takes waste and he gives it purpose. God takes something that's not something and God makes it something. This is how God creates. Organizes, orders, puts it together. I think it's really important for us to see that because once we see that, now we can see the rest of what God did and how it fits into our everyday life. Let's keep reading. We're going to jump around a couple places in Genesis chapter 1. This is what we read. It says, then God said, let the land sprout with vegetation, every sort of seed-bearing plant and trees that grow seed-bearing fruit. These seeds will then produce the kinds of plants and trees from which they came. And that is what happened. The land produced vegetation, all sorts of seed-bearing plants, and the trees with seed-bearing fruit. Their seed produced plants and trees of the same kind, and God saw that it was good. A little later we read, then God said, let the earth produce every sort of animal, with each producing offspring of the same kind, livestock, small animals that scurry along the ground, and wild animals. And that is what happened. God made all sorts of wild animals, livestock, and small animals, each able to produce offspring of the same kind. And God saw that it was good. Then God said, let us make human beings in our image, to be like us. They will reign over the fish in the sea, the birds in the sky, the livestock, all the wild animals of the earth, and the small animals that scurry along the ground. So God created human beings in his own image. In the image of God, he created them. Male and female, he created them. Then God blessed them and said, be fruitful and multiply. Fill the earth and govern it. Reign over the fish in the sea, the birds in the sky, and all the animals that scurry along the ground. So there's two things that God does here, right? So the first thing he does for the plants and the animals and the birds and the fish and the reptiles and the mammals and everything else, okay? God makes stuff that makes stuff. God arranges things that arrange things. God takes chaos, makes it orderly, and then from that orderly says, no more chaos, let's keep being orderly. In other words, I got an apple tree in my backyard. It makes apples. Pretty simple, right? You don't have to do anything. Like, we could disappear and the earth will just keep going. Plants, the trees, everything else. Because God made a system that is self-sufficient. And you can have all sorts of crazy stuff happen. You can have hurricanes and droughts and floods and comets and fires, and you can't do it. You can't change the system. The system fits. There are exceptions, of course, to the system working, but the exceptions do not disprove the rule of the system. The system works. The world will just do what the world does because God put it in motion, and now it continues in motion. Here's what that means, okay? When we see like a new puppy, we don't need to say, well, God made that puppy. But we can say, God made the system that puppy came from. And therefore, God made the puppy. Because without what God made, the puppy can't be here. God made animals to be able to make more animals, who can make more animals, who can make more animals, right? And so it's not that God is individually in heaven being like, all right, here's a puppy. Here's a tree. Puppy. Tree. Sloth. Love those guys. Panda. No, let's not do pandas. Let's not do pandas. There's like 8 of those. That's enough. Puppy. That's not how God operates, right? God simply made a world where everything has the ability and, frankly, the responsibility to reproduce. And so it does. God made a system that works and continues and perpetuates. Chaos to order, and the order stays. That's the first part. Here's the part that's super cool. God made us in his own image to be like him and govern the world. The question has to be asked. If we are like God, in what way are we like God? There's a lot of ways, but here's a way that we don't often think about. We make systems that work just exactly like God does. We hate chaos. Let's go back to that normal day. You wake up, the alarm goes off. You know why the alarm goes off? Because somebody built an alarm to go off. And then you set the alarm, and it works. Funny story. Every time, and this is the thing. If you tell me, my alarm didn't go off, let me tell you what I don't believe is that. Because I am late all the time, all over the place, and my alarm always goes off. I just ignore it. I'm going to assume that you're telling me a lie. When you say, my alarm didn't go off. No, you're lazy and you didn't get out of bed. Me too. I get it. Just tell me the truth. Alarms work. You get in the shower. You turn the shower, and you've got 2 options in the shower. You've got hot and cold. If you turn the cold, where does it go? Cold. Also, you're a monster. Why are you taking a cold shower in the morning? Turn it to hot, right? Take a hot shower in the morning. It's going to go hot. Go to your coffee. You go to make coffee. You know what the coffee doesn't give you? Chocolate milk. It just gives you coffee. Try this out. Go home with your coffee maker and try to make chocolate milk. You can't do it. Because somebody built a system that gives you coffee. If you want chocolate milk, you go to the chocolate milk store. I don't know where that is. Gas station? Grocery store? I don't know. We live in a world where you only have chocolate milk if you want chocolate milk. You get in your car. I was very specific to tell us we were going to Jeff City or Columbia. because there's two lanes that go to Columbia, and they're both going the same direction. Somebody built that on purpose. You know why? Because they didn't want people to drive into each other. And on the other side, it's the same thing, only one direction. Somebody built that. You go to work. And this is where you're going to be like, well, Drew, I know that at my job, it is nothing but chaos, and nobody built that. I get it. Okay, fine. I'm not going to speak to your work. Everything that we build, everything that we do is a reflection of the way that God made the world. God took chaos and waste, and God said, I want to make order with a purpose. And we have been doing, since the dawn of time, exactly that. Human beings create. Human beings build. And we are doing that because we are acting out the image of God within us. Over and over, in small ways, in big ways, in all the in-betweeny ways, this is what we do. And so what that means is that tomorrow, when you get up to do your day, over and over, you are witnessing signs of God all around you. Take a shower, you make your coffee, you get in your car. You are witnessing the fingerprints of God being displayed by human beings who are made in his image. In everything we have, everything we do, that comes from an orderly system that works, which is like 99% of stuff. And even the stuff that doesn't work so well, somebody tried. Somebody made the attempt, you know? This is another way of saying, I think we can see God in dominoes. I mean it. Guys, they've got a system they built, and it is unbreakable. It works every time. It is fast, it is accurate, it is efficient. God himself is proud of this. Right? Like you can't build. I'm only half kidding. We could see God where we see people building and creating order. You see, God is our creator, and the so what our creator, and therefore we create. God is our maker, and therefore we make. God is the great organizer of chaos. And so we find chaos in our world, and we organize it. And do we do a good job of that all the time? No, but on the whole, look around this planet. Like look at what we've done. I'm not trying to like be arrogant about human beings, but you know, there was once a time when we were talking about like, oh my goodness, we have so many people. We built so many civilizations. That's kind of awesome, right? Like we did it. We made it. We did what God wanted, just on a huge scale. And now we have those conversations about like environment. Even the conversations about environmentalism are hilarious when you think about it from this perspective. Because, we're ruining the environment with all the stuff we built. Well, we were supposed to build it. Like, we should be responsible. That's a whole other conversation. I'm just saying, like, even something that's objectively bad, like, oh, you're killing the planet, is evidence that we're doing the thing that God wanted us to do. We just maybe should do it a little more responsibly. We were made to make. We were created to create. And everything from the shirts on our backs to the chairs we're sitting in to this microphone I'm speaking into screams the design of God in his world that he passes on to us that we then express because we are made in his image. Which is another way of saying God is showing himself to you all day, every day. The question is, can we see it? I don't want to be a practical atheist. I want to be able to see it. I want to live with a sensitivity and say, I'm aware of what God has done, and I'm aware of what God is doing in me, and I'm aware, this has nothing to do with faith, it's just universal. This is what human beings are. Have you ever wondered why we're the way we are? It's because God made us that way. Why do we do the things we do? Because God wanted us to. And then we mess it all up and call it sin, and then we think that that undoes what God wanted. Yes, we sin. Yes, we mess up. Yes, we blow the whole thing up. But the basis of what we were doing was good. And we can't just say, well, a bunch of people sinned, so, the first part's not good. No, God made us to be this way. And so in this case, the question of whether we recognize God or not is not even a theological one. It's not really even a matter of faith or getting the right beliefs down. It's just a matter of looking around at the world that God created and looking around at the people that God created, looking around at the animals God created and seeing all the ways that God ordered beauty and grace and purpose out of chaos and waste, and how we live that out each and every day in everything that we do. We don't have to be practically atheist, but I dare say, whether we know it or not, the funny thing for the atheists, for the actual atheists, is that whether they like it or not, they are living out God's purpose that he gave to them. Whether they ever say God's name or not, they're living the life that God wanted them to live, at least to a degree. And so for us as Christians, instead of saying, okay, I believe this thing that God made us, so what? The so what in this case is that, well, that helps explain why I'm the way that I am. And that helps explain why they're the way that they are. That helps explain why we are the way that we are. And so each and every day, we are simply living with an understanding that God has put his fingerprints and his imprint on everything and everybody. And as Christians, it's not about us believing the right thing as much as it is living in an understanding and an appreciation of what God has done for us and for everyone else. This morning, we're in our first week of our series called So What? We're going to talk about 6 things. I already told you all of them in this. I just told you the whole series outline. I don't know if you guys picked up on that, but I did. We're going to talk about these things that we agree with. And we're going to say, well, so what? What's it matter? What does it matter? And for us as we begin, how it matters is it changing the way that we see not just nature, right, but the entirety of this world that has been built either by God or by the people that God built. God is ultimately responsible for the way that we are. And so as we build and as we order out of chaos, God is smiling because that's what he does. And that's what he made us to do as well. Our first lesson from the series called So What is this. God made order out of chaos when he made the world, and that's why we do the same thing. God made order out of chaos when he made the world, and that is why we do the same thing. We're going to sing a song. We offer an invitation. The Bible teaches we should repent and be baptized. If you've not been baptized, then I don't know, you should. That'd be cool. Bible teaches that you should, and that as we do, that we are embracing Christ. We are saying, well, I want things God's way in my life. I'm aligning my life with Christ forever. The Bible teaches that we are forgiven, that we are given God's Spirit. All those things. If you want to talk about that, we can talk. If you're looking for a perfect church home, it's definitely not this. But we do serve a perfect God. We want to connect. We want to call. We want to cultivate. We want to meet new people and to share the gospel and to grow up what we do it. And we want to be people who live in appreciation of God, who recognize what God is doing around us, with us, and through us each and every day. As we stand,